Hello there, this is Kellan Olson with Arizona Sports Suns reporter for Empire of the Suns, giving you a recap of 2022 Media Day for the Phoenix Suns. We could start in a couple of different places because it was a rather headline-producing day with a couple of notable topics to come up, but we've got to start with DeAndre Ayton, which you could argue he was the biggest story coming into the day, just the first time hearing from him in a press conference format since his whole offseason went, since Monty Williams said it's internal. When talking about DeAndre Ayton's lack of playing time, when the Suns were eliminated by the Dallas Mavericks, and so on. So we were very eager to hear from DeAndre. And look, as someone who has heard from DeAndre hundreds of times by now in this type of format where he talks with the media, there are some days, like anyone else, where DeAndre is very encouraged and he's very jovial and he's very energetic. There are some days where his mood is a little low. And today was one of those days where it was not the lowest I've ever seen, but one of the lowest. I can go and make that kind of claim.
I was happy. It was all done, I guess.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
This was a day not for that. I think that's the furthest I'll go. What I've been saying on this all day is that this is a subjective thing. You can really read into it as much as you want to read into it, that he was subdued, he was short with his answers. You can say, was he more serious? Was he more angry? How did he come off to you? Everyone's having different reactions to it, and I just have mine. And I'll say, though, the one thing is, of the days for him to be like this was not a great one because of everything hanging over this media day. DeAndre just kind of presenting himself as someone who was happy with how everything went this offseason and is happy going forward and playing with the Suns. Because again, I just think that January 15th date, that date when DeAndre Ayton can be traded with his own permission, is going to hang over this team for a couple of months and hang over him personally. And the way today unfolded just didn't do any favors in that type of realm. And look, you can react to it how you want, like I said, but the bottom line is the way that DeAndre came off with his body language and just his mood didn't seem great. Everyone who was interacting with him outside of that room, which I was not able to personally, said it was DeAndre. He was laughing and joking with everyone like he normally is. So again, read into it what you will, but that was undoubtedly the biggest story to come out of the day. Of course, for Robert Sarver not to be the biggest story to come out of Media Day, that meant it was something pretty big. We were all eager to hear from the players, Monty Williams and James Jones, how they reacted when they first read the report. And again, like the DeAndre stuff, everyone reacts in a certain way, but I really liked what Monty Williams had to say specifically about his disgust and just how unhappy he was when he read those reports.
In reference to that word, I don't like it. I never have, especially when I was younger and I learned what that word meant. I learned how demeaning it was towards humanity, not just black folks. And when I saw the report, I was not happy about it, quite frankly disgusted. It's not a word you repeat anytime. And when you read the report and you read the bullet points and you see it over and over again in that way, it bothers you.
Now, to me, again, this is where we just get into your own personal opinion, how you feel about the thing. I just feel like that was the bare minimum for a lot of people to say, and I think Monty was really the only guy to go out to that level. A lot of players, including DeAndre Ayton, just talked about how unacceptable it was and just how they were unhappy to hear Robert Sarver was saying these types of things and acting in this kind of unforgivable and horrifying, and again, to repeat the word, disgusting way. But a lot of the players, including Devin Booker, said, like, look, I know Robert Sarver a certain way, and that was not the way that I knew him. I never saw him kind of doing these things or saying these things, but they didn't also, Devin went on to mention and James went on to mention, like, you have to listen to other people's experiences, and he didn't say it in a way to discredit them at all. And a lot of the players, including Chris, including Monty, really emphasized that thoughts and prayers to the people that were affected by all of this and affected by what was a toxic workplace for people to be working with Robert Sarver at the time. And I thought it was important for Monty to kind of emphasize that because, again, these players are going to have an impact on the day-to-day happenings in the facility. Not as much as someone's boss, for example, and a lot of people there, they don't really report to Monty Williams or James Jones or whomever because they're not on the basketball operations side, but just those daily interactions to help make that place a better place to work. I've heard nothing but good things about this for the last 2 years in terms of the basketball side and just how great it is to work with people like Monty, like James, like Chris, like Devin, like DeAndre, like Mikal, like the Cams, and so on. But you just need to keep that in your mind because it's a sensitive place to be right now. You have to be aware of that, and it sounds like Monty and his team are aware of that. Somehow we're at topic number 3, and a player pretty much requesting a trade hasn't come up yet. That's Jay Crowder, who tweeted and quickly deleted on Friday night that he was not going to be at training camp. A lot of his social media activity seemed to reflect that he wasn't happy in Phoenix, and it turns out him and the Suns have agreed mutually that they are going to look for another team to send him in a trade. And for the time being, he's not going to participate in training camp. We'll see what happens once games start to come up, but for now, he's not participating in training camp. So, of course, curious to hear what James Jones had to say, and here's what he had to say.
After very fruitful and deliberate conversations, we just decided it was best that he wasn't with us for training camp. What that means going forward, I don't know. We don't know. But as of right now, it allows us and affords us the opportunity to focus on the guys that are here and focus on continuing to build the foundation that will carry us through the rest of this season.
And then here's what Monty Williams had to say about Jay Crowder's impact over the last 2 years as well.
He brought a number of intangibles to the team. I think all of our guys would speak in that way about him. At the same time, these things happen.
Now, the guy that I was the most interested to hear about all of this from was Cam Johnson, because, look, if you say you're insulted that you won't have this job because this other person might take it and I'm that person, I might be a little bit offended by that. I got to say, I'm being honest here and saying that someone like Cam Johnson has a right to be offended by Jay Crowder thinking that Cam Johnson doesn't deserve that spot. Now, for Jay, it has far less to do with Cam, and it has much more to do with just Jay and the belief that he has and the self-belief that he has in himself. But with that being said, Cam Johnson had nothing but great things to say about his experiences with Jay Crowder.
There's no bad blood between Jay and I. Jay has looked out for me over the past couple of years. He's taught me a lot. He's shown me a lot. And he's somebody that I could, always call and be like, what do you see there in this? Talk to him. Talk to me. How do you guard this? What is your advice on this? So at the end of the day, I feel it's just business. It's him trying to do what's best for his career.
And to hear that from Cam, it just kind of reinforces the type of person, quite honestly, that the Suns have there and the type of player we've seen on the court for Cam. Cam's numbers were awesome last year as a starter, and I assume this is going to be his, and I feel confident in saying this is going to be the best season of his NBA career with him in the starting lineup and how much he's going to gel with those guys, how much the offensive boost from him is going to help. And the Suns are in a good spot. In terms of the replacement for Jay Crowder, it's already kind of in there. It's Cam Johnson, but you wonder how long this is going to take, because if the Suns don't go into the season with the trade, that means that, hey, however you feel about Jay Crowder and how many threes he's missed over his time here in Phoenix, he is one of their 6 most important players on the roster right now, and you cannot argue that. That is just objective. If they aren't able to trade Jay Crowder for someone or a player, or he's just still here, or they have to trade him for an expiring contract who isn't going to play and salary filler and picks or what have you, they're in a position where they're going to be a worse team. Now, are they suddenly the 9th best team in the league as opposed to the 2nd or 3rd or 1st or 4th? No. But they need him. They need him on this team, and they need someone to be able to replace him in the rotation in some sort of way, not just from someone on the team. They need to bring in another player and get a rotation player. Getting a rotation player out, they got to get one back in. And we'll see what James Jones gets done. He has a really tough job ahead of him to help course correct this team from the way that they went in the playoffs, but also with the Sarver thing and with this Jay thing, it is certainly, I feel like, a stressful time for these guys. But look, they're equipped to handle it. They're going to be one of the best teams in the league again, and we'll see that the heights that they're able to reach this season. And this has been Kellan Olson with Arizona Sports.